Hi everyone, this is Randil. Welcome again. In this lesson today, we will be looking at 10 uses of would. Would is a modal verb and a magical word. If you can know how to use this modal verb would in your daily conversations and writing, that can make wonders. Note that I want to tell you something. I have taken some lessons from the reported speech. If you are interested in knowing more about reported speech, you can see the link on the screen somewhere. Then grab that link and learn about reported speech. And also I have taken some lessons from the conditional sentences video. There are two parts I created last year. If you are interested in learning about conditional sentences, you can find the link somewhere on the screen. Grab that one and learn more about conditional sentences. So without further ado, let's get into the lesson. There are 10 uses of would, as I mentioned in the introduction. Let's look at them one by one. The first one, we use would to talk about polite request. There are 3 ways that we can make request. We can look into them in detail later. And the second use, we use would to talk about offers and invitations. And the third use, when we talk about reported speech, we know would is the past tense form of will. In direct speech we use will, but in reported speech we use would instead of will. Now the fourth use, to talk about typical behavior. And also if you want to talk about repeated action in the past, we use would. And the next use, to give opinions. If you want to make your opinions to someone else about something, you can use would. And the next use, to talk about preferences. We usually use would with rather. And the next use, wish. The structure, I wish I would. I wish they would. And the next use of would is to talk about conditional sentences. There are 4 types of conditional sentences. The first one and the second one we don't use would, but in the second conditional sentences and third conditional sentences we use would. And the next one, to talk about hypothetical situations, imaginary situations. We use would to talk about imaginary situations. And the next one, to talk about willingness in the past. This is very important, and also you need to remember that we use would in negative form to talk about unwillingness. I think I have told you already 10 uses of would, and we will try to learn them more in detail in our next part of the video. Now let's look at the first use of would. We use would to talk about request politely. Let's look at the structure first. For formulation, you can use the subject plus would like plus object, or subject plus would like plus infinitive. You can use both structures to formulate request with would. You need to remember there are 3 ways of making request. The first one, when you make a request for yourself, you can use would. And when you make a request for another person, still you can use would. And also when you make request with would in question form. Let's look at some examples for each situation. Let's look at the first situation. In the first situation, when you want to request something for yourself, you can use would. Take this example. I would like a piece of cake, please. Then with infinitive, I would like to come to the party with you. And the second situation, when you want to make request for other people, you can use would. Take these 2 examples. My wife would like to have some orange juice. My wife would like some bread with jam. My daughter would like to join your class. And the final situation, would in question form. Would you like some orange juice with biscuit? Would you like to see the movie again? That's all about the first use. Now let's move on to the second use. We have come to the second use of would. We use would to talk about offers and invitations. To formulate sentences with would, we use this structure. Would plus subject plus like plus object or to infinite. This structure is very important when making offers and invitations. Let's look at some examples. First one, would you like a cup of tea? Would you like to come to my house for dinner tomorrow? Would you like to read this newspaper? Would you like to see a movie tonight? Would you like this piece of cake? This is really amazing. Would you like to see my new car? Now that's all about the second use. Let's move on to the third use. Here's the third use. We use would in reported speech. There are two ways of transmitting something said by someone to someone else. In direct speech and in reported speech. In direct speech we use will, but in reported speech we use would instead of will. Take this example. Ron said, I will help you move the table. In direct speech. But in reported speech we use would instead of will. Ron said that he would help me move the table. Take this example also. She said, I will come and see you tomorrow. In direct speech. In reported speech, she said that she would come and see me the following day. Now that's all about the third use. Let's look at the fourth use. When we describe the typical behavior of someone, we use would. That means for repeated actions in the past, we use would. Take these two examples. When I was a little child, we would go to New Area for our holidays. And the second example, when Sam was at university, he would eat fast food almost every night. That's all about the fourth use, and we know already how to talk about repeated action in the past. And also you need to remember that we can use the past simple, but this is something different. This is used to talk about repeated action in the past. Would. That is the fourth use. Now let's move on to talk about the fifth use. The fifth use of would. We use would to talk about willingness in the past. And you need to remember this very important fact. We always use would in negative form. Therefore, we use would to talk about unwillingness in the past. Take these examples. The shop wouldn't give me the refund, even though my phone was totally broken. And the second example, my parents wouldn't give me any money. Therefore, I couldn't go out. The third example, Sam wouldn't carry any of my boxes for me. And you need to remember this point. We always use would to talk about unwillingness in the past. Now let's move on to the sixth use of would. The sixth use. We use would to talk about hypothetical situation or imaginary situations in the present. Then you won't make any mistake when using this would. Take this example. It would be great to have a pet at home. That restaurant would be expensive. For that reason, we won't go there. We would like to live in Kandy because the weather is nice. That's all about sixth use. Let's move on to learn about the seventh use. Now let's talk about the seventh use. We use would in conditional sentences. There are four types of conditional sentences. The first one, zero conditional. The second one, conditional sentences type 1. Third one, conditional sentences type 2 and type 3. We use conditional sentences type 2 for imaginary situation and hypothetical situation. In this context, we use would. Remember, we use would only in conditional sentences type 2 and type 3. Let's talk about the second conditional, conditional sentences type 2. Here is the structure. We use if and past simple in the if clause, and we use would in the consequence clause. Then you see the subject would plus base form of the verb. Let's construct some examples. Let's look at the first one. If I moved to another country, I would miss my parents. Then the second example. If I were you, I would study more and more to get good results. And the next example. If my children ate all the vegetables, on the table, they would get an ice cream each. I would learn how to speak Spanish if I had a chance to learn another language. That's all about conditional sentences type 2. Now let's move to learn about the conditional sentences type 3. Now, conditional sentences type 3. Conditional sentences type 3 refers to a situation in the past. They are impossible situations. Therefore, we use would to talk about. Let's look at the structure first. In the if clause, if plus past perfect tense. And in the consequence clause, we use would have plus past participle form of the verb. Look at here, if plus subject plus past perfect tense. And subject plus would have plus past participle form of the verb in the consequence clause. Let's look at some examples. I would have asked you if I had known you at home. The second example, if she had helped us, we would have finished earlier. The third example, if he had practiced more and more, he would have passed the test. The next example, if you had bought a ticket, you wouldn't have got a fine. That's all about conditional sentences. Now let's move on to the next use of would. Now let's talk about the 8th use of would. This would is very important. We use wish, the verb, with would to talk about things that we want people to do or not to do. Let's look at the structure first. The subject plus wish and subject plus would plus base form of the verb. Let's look at these examples first. I wish you would stay silent during my class. I wish you would have a beautiful house. I wish you wouldn't leave the house unlocked. I wish my father wouldn't smoke. I wish my grandparents would move closer to us. I wish my kids would study more often. I wish my wife would clean the house more often. That's all about 8th use of would. Let's look at the 9th use. Now, 9th use of would. We use would with rather to talk about preferences of someone. Let's look at the structure first. We use the subject plus would rather plus base form of the verb. Take these examples. I would rather have some coffee now. I would rather take this opportunity. My parents would rather leave me alone. We usually use this one in question form to ask preference of someone. Would you rather take some coffee or tea? Would you rather go to the theater or the cinema? Would you rather stay at home or go out to have dinner? Would you rather study now or later? That's all about the 9th use of would. Let's look at the final use. Now, this is the 10th use of would. We use would to talk about opinions you made to someone else about a particular situation and you are not sure that you are correct. Anyway, you use would. You can use would think or would imagine when making opinions. Now, let's look at some examples. I would think you buy this dress. This is nicer than the black one. I would guess he wants to help you. The next example. We would think we need to talk to the manager. That's all for the lesson today. We already talked about 10 uses of would. They are very important. If you know how to use them in an accurate manner, I'm quite sure you have a better understanding and better improvement in your writing and speaking. Therefore, use as many would as possible in your sentences with the correct forms. And thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a clear idea about the uses of would. If you like this video, please subscribe to our channel and leave a like. And don't forget to share this video and leave a comment. I hope to see you in another video. Bye for now.